Could you tell us why this debate was held and what you were trying to achieve with it?
This is the culmination of an excellent 3 days in which we've been talking about all things to do with cancer-associated thrombosis, but the major news in our specialty is about the role of DOACs, and in particular the Hoxha cancer study. So we were trying to bring together all the discussion, and although Harry and I were given opposing views, we actually think very similarly, which is these medicines are a useful adjunct, they are a game changer in CAT management, so long as we understand the data sufficiently to ensure safety. Would you agree with that?
No, I completely agree. I mean, the nice thing is that you are supposed to have opposing views. For the great majority of patients, these DOACs are an excellent solution, but you have to use your brains. The patients, as Simon was explaining, with renal insufficiency, the interaction with some of the cancer therapies, we just have to learn. And to me, it reminds me of a kind of a deja vu. When we had unfractionated heparin intravenously, and then we got low molecular weight heparin available, people were very nervous and said, oh no, let's go back to unfractionated heparin, because then I can measure. And low molecular, when the VKAs were replaced by the DOACs, people were very nervous. Said, oh no, let's go back to VK because we can, we know what to do. And now we see in the CAT, in the cancer-associated thrombosis, we'll see this change from low molecular weight heparin to DOACs. And we've seen this all again. People are a little nervous to leave something they have had, but the real bottom line, and that's where Simon and I completely agree, is it is a major step forward. Will be great for many patients that cannot inject or tolerate it, but you have to use it with an individual approach. That's the bottom line.
Do you think the priority should be to understand the data that's already been produced, or the priority should be to do more studies and produce more data to have a clearer idea of where you're going?
The answer is both. The data that Harry presented was regarding one drug, edoxaban. And I personally don't feel that we can extrapolate all the edoxaban data and say it applies to every other DOAC. So we do need evaluation of the other drugs in cancer-associated thrombosis. And so we have Caravaggio recruiting now, and that once again will be very informative. Because what we don't know yet is, are the safety concerns that I raised, and Harry raised as well, unique to edoxaban, or are they actually across the class? So that will be important.
No, I cannot agree more. The real thing here is we have 4 DOACs, and each of those DOACs has to provide the evidence. And it's not piggybacking and say, you did the study, my drug is the same. I think that's the absolute wrong way to go. There are differences in these drugs, in the metabolism, in their interaction with CYP3A4, with other drugs. So each of these agents should deliver a full report of the data. And where I'm very concerned about is that you now see people just getting on the bandwagon with small studies that actually, I think, need full scrutiny before we can say this is a family. At the present, we'll go drug by drug.
I think the other thing that this highlights, and the message we wanted, was the audience we were speaking to are an informed audience with an interest in cancer-associated thrombosis. They will not be the only ones prescribing DOACs, and so it was highlighting a responsibility of these people who will be the key opinion leaders in their area of how to inform other less familiar colleagues about the data. And so that's the thing, and so we deliberately did it in an entertaining, relaxed way. That is part of the atmosphere of ICTHIC, that people feel they can come along, be informed and enjoy. But the messages throughout were very serious and will have a direct impact on patient care around the world.
And I think to make that a little more specific, there is this question about patients with GI cancer. And I think you really need to understand the data carefully. Probably that's the group where you really need to think. Probably 80% or maybe 90% of the GI cancer patients can have a DOAC. But there are these patients that have unresected tumors, that have had past bleeding, and are, are sensitive to bleeding. That's where you might need your brains to make a decision. I think the big mistake is going, and he made that mistake, but I like him.
It was for entertainment.
Is the subgroup analysis. Now the GI really, and we'll at this meeting we'll present new data for the urogenital. There is no message there, but it's really in the GI. And I think, and that's what Simon is trying to say, is we should carefully present the data, give these opinion leaders the information so that they can make the right decision. I think the wrong way is to say, oh, I stay with low molecular weight heparin, it's so uncertain, I wait a couple of years before I'm more trials. No, you can start, but you have to use your brains. That's why we are, that's why the business of being a doctor is so nice. If it's just a fixed approach, then it's easy, but it's just using your brains. And in the great majority of these patients, and yes, GI cancers are actually about 25-30% of the patients that develop thrombosis. But in that group of GI, you have a large variety of patients with esophageal cancer that is unresected. Is that the ideal patient? Maybe take a few weeks of low molecular weight heparin, see what happens, and then move on. It's that kind of message I think that we really like to bring to this audience.
Well, you have that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Cheers,
there
mate.
we go.
Just a second.